about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff. And we play a game. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time, and we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4. 還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は Okay, we've leveled up and it is time to pick another language. Mot är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back. Greek. We're doing Greek when we get back. Ben neredeyse her gün okula giderim. Fun fact. Turkish. Hello, Shakespeare. How you doing? Fun fact, in Spanish, the word for bishop in chess is alfil. And that actually comes from Arabic. Fil. The same word fil as this. Meaning elephant, because the bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is skor, and that also means elephant. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time, and we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Ça, c'est ça, que c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco. Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyperpolyglotting avec Élise. Moi, c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça, c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux, surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues. 10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Nej. Man. Igen. Jo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Bamba, okay, Bambas is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon. Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré, des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré, des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, sì, ecco, la gente, è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo, io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi, dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io. I buy a computer or what? And here's another example. I like to point these out. For this word for or, what sounds vaguely like Hogun and the Hok in Hogun in Korean or Waku in Japanese, and that appears it is the exact same kind of character.
Okay, let me see.
Un chasseur, sa chambre chassée, ses chassés sont son chien de chasse.
Der dicke Dach.
Okay, der dicke Dachdecker deckt dir dein Dach, drum dank dem dicken Dachdecker, dass der dicke Dachdecker dir dein Dach deckt. Hola y bienvenidos al directo de Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. Yo soy Elisa, traductora, escritora y editora y comunicadora social con más de 20 idiomas de trabajo. Y aquí vamos a estar jugando videojuegos, sobre todo GeoGuessr, y hablando de idiomas, la mejor forma de aprenderlo y caleta más. Zwei Zwetschgenzweigen zwitscherten zwei tschechische Schwalben. Tres tristes tigres tragaban trigo en un trigal en tres tristes trastos. Oh, I see. This is Diche Ishai Fui, which means, do you want food? But, yeah, are you hungry? That kind of thing. How are the boys? Cocine tapon. Poso milao. Pote. When is it? Proteine. Topulo. In the designated chicken-eating area, obviously. Okay, still 3 times I have to defeat him. And I don't have a whole lot of health left. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So, anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Monsieur. Livre. Liwe livre.
Mustan kissan paksut posket.
맞아요.
Yeah.
Yeah. sim. Hisoki. 맞아요. 그렇죠. Inter. Почки. А. Sì.
Track 6.
Aspri petra xes aspri apton ilio xex asproteri. Aspri petra xes aspri apton ilio xes asproteri.
Coginio panas.
Oh boy.
Ad ferad verda ferra ferda vetri.
Hakab. Hefad. 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 Haq. Haq. Haq.
Саша по шоссе.
А Саша по шоссе несла сушку на счастье и сосала сушку. А Саша по шоссе несла сушку на счастье и сосала сушку.
Mwalimu.
Juma ni mwalimu mke.
Ирак чима в чипах чемп чавю ченчи чини. Чирак чима в чипа да, чирак чима в чипцах чемп чавю ченчи чини. Акакит альшит. Хикрин. Акакит альши хикрин. Акакит альши хикринепс. Oh, thanks to cat sons. Meow and the pictures of the fish. That's they were proud.
Sööpel. Kupu. Yrittävät. Puraista. Omena.
Are in the city center. And it's got some interesting aspects to it.
여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까? 여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까? 여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까?
Countries or living things.
兄の名前は
This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time, and we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Lo que pasa es que bueno, la manera, y esto se ve en tantos lugares, no es cuestión regional, sino más bien de un problema fundamental de la pedagogía oficial de los idiomas extranjeros, y que la manera en que se enseñan en tantos lugares, en las clases, en el colegio, no tiene nada que ver con el estado actual de la investigación sobre lo que se llama adquisición de idioma.
Doesn't, you can try something else.
In fact, I would say often you really know you're getting it with languages if you can't really explain why something's right, but you just bloody well know it's right. Hi, and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I am Elise, translator, editor, and writer with 20 working languages, and this is where we talk about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff. And we play games. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4.
El hospital
還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は Okay, we've leveled up and it is time to pick another language. Mord är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back. Greek. We're doing Greek when we get back. Benedese. Her beautiful Fun fact. Turkish. Hello, Shakespeare. How you doing? Fun fact, in Spanish, the word for bishop in chess is alfil. And that actually comes from Arabic. Fil. The same word fil as this. Meaning elephant, because the bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is squab, and that also means elephant. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Ça, c'est ça, che c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco. Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyperpolyglotting avec Élise. Moi, c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça, c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux. Surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues. 10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Nei. Nei. Man. Yen. Yo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Bambas. Bamba, okay, Bambas is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon. Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Ah sì, sì, ecco, la gente... è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo, io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi, dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io. I find a computer or what? And here's another example. I like to point these out. For this word for or, but sound. Hello and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I'm Elise, translator, writer, and editor with 20 working languages, and this is the stream where we are going to be answering your language questions and talking languages and language learning, all in support of the crowdfunded translation project, which is a project by which I crowdfund the cost of myself translating texts of public interest and like general interest, things that people might be interested in reading, but that nobody is individually stumping up the full cost of translating. Right now, I'm working on a long-form article from the legendary Chilean monthly magazine Punto Final called Chile, the Ballad of the Bullet from 1969. I'm trying to raise $1,200 for that. I've raised $145 so far. All support is very much appreciated, and I wanted to just mention another thing that I am thinking of putting together, another way to enjoy the crowdfunded translations from this particular project, the Punto Final project, is that I'm going to be putting together is essentially audiobook form for them, which is to say I'm going to read them and record it, and it will be available to paid Patreon subscribers at, I haven't quite decided yet, either the $1 tier or the $5 tier. That isn't up yet, but in the next couple of weeks I expect to have that up. If you want to read the completed translations in the current project, and you can find those here, and donations to the project are always very much welcomed here. Those help me provide you with interesting reading material and stay afloat in very complicated times in which to be a translator. So how's everybody doing, chat, as I get over and look at what we've got here. And also get the chat widget where I can see it. Right now, I have sort of a sub-fundraising goal out of the $1,200 for the current project of $300 that I'm trying to raise today, because I have a couple of really urgent bills that can't be postponed. And so, ideally, I'd like to finish out this day having raised that, or getting as close as possible to it. Okay, here we go. Got a bunch of interesting things to look at, I think. There's one that, okay. First of all, we were looking at videos that say that you're going to be that wanted to talk about becoming fluent fast. And I thought looking at these is kind of interesting because you can kind of use them as a gauge to talk about what kind of tells, what things will tell you whether the person you're looking at is actually serious about this and has some idea what they're talking about. So I thought we might start out with one of those. This is slow language learning will make you fluent fast. Now, I don't quite know, I mean, if it's, I don't know what slow means in this context. I'm not familiar with this channel. It is called, what is it called? Goluremi Languages. Oh, it has automatic dubbing. Let's make sure. Oh, good. Original audio. Because automatic dubbing is fucking horrible, and YouTube needs to get rid of it. So I don't know who this guy is. I don't know anything about him. I'm just kind of curious when he says slow language learning, what that means, and how that connects to the apparently contradictory goal of getting fluent fast. Once I can get this to start.
If you are learning a new language,
Okay, that was a bit loud. Maybe I need to make an adjustment there.
you need to slow the fuck down.
Okay. I mean, and let me just say, I mentioned this apparent contradiction, and I want to see how he resolves it, but I mean, I tend to think, I have my doubts about anything that tries to tell you that you can accelerate certain parts of this process, because to a great extent it's a natural process, and there are aspects of it that will just take time in order to really work. So
Slow down. Today's video has 2 points. One is to change the way in which you are consuming the comprehensible input or the materials with which you are studying.
okay, so input-based, good. That always strikes me as encouraging.
And the other is to get you to understand why slowing down is actually moving faster. The Latin phrase festina lente, all right? Which is to make haste slowly,
Okay.
right? To go quick without being reckless. That's the speed you want. That's what you're actually after when you say, I'm gonna learn this language in 90 days, 6 months, 30 days, what?
I mean, if you think you're going to learn it in 90 days or 6 months or 30 days, I mean, well, okay, 6 months depending on what the language is and where you're coming from with it, maybe, I mean, that's not entirely implausible. If you're saying 90 or 30 days, it's like, what level are you trying to get to? Like, what's your goal there? Because I don't think you're going to go from 0 to like C1 in that number of days, no matter how good your method is, because this stuff does take time. But okay.
Whatever it is. Doing it all crazy is madness. We as a society are horrible with slowing down.
Absolutely true. I mean, in fact, this whole sort of grind culture that tries to make everything like, yeah, it tries to schedule everything, and you're going to force yourself to do a certain number of hours of something every single day and have like rigorous timetables and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think that is particularly good for language learning. I don't think it's great as a society, actually. Hey, Riveroon, how you doing?
We want to go 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that's why the world's most...
By the way, if you're in the Discord, there are a couple of tweets, one for Blue Sky, one for Twitter, that I'm trying to get signal boosted at the moment, and anyone who does that, I would really, really appreciate it.
popular language app, at least I think, is Duolingo, which has you go 1,000,000 miles an hour and the feeling of achieving.
Yes,
Bam.
the feeling of achieving. That is a very good way of putting it.
Boom, bop. 30-day streak, 80-day streak, 100-day streak. Hola, ¿cómo estás? What? What?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Why
I mean, I'm with him so far.
is that happening? Retention. Because the point and the entire idea behind you studying and putting all that effort is, what are you going to retain? You are not going to go to native level. You may never get to the native level. Who cares? Where you should be concerned at is, why don't I have the ability to communicate?
Yeah. And of course, we can get really, really specific and granular about what we mean by the ability to communicate, too. It's like, what kind of communication are you trying to do? Do you want to just be able to ask directions? That's actually a much more complicated task than a lot of people probably realize, because it's like, it's one thing to be able to say, bonjour, comment puis-je arriver à Montmartre? You know, it's another thing to understand every single thing that they're going to come back and say, because they're going to be like, because they're going to tell you all sorts of landmarks, or, you know, maybe, or like metro stations and stuff like that. And that can be very complicated, actually. So even that requires a whole lot more than just being able to ask the question. But yeah, what kind of communication you're doing, it all, when you say your ability to communicate, it all depends, because there's all sorts of stuff you can communicate.
Why have I been...
Oh, well, I'm pretty good. I'm icing my back. I've had actually a rough few days in a couple of ways. Nothing really to worry about, but like a real pain in the ass for me. It is getting better though, but yeah, I will be happy when it finishes getting better, actually.
Putting in all these streaks on this app and this stupid thing, dude, it sucks.
Yes, it does.
The app sucks. Everyone is so afraid to say it. They're so huge.
I mean, at this point, I have to say, I mean, there was definitely a time. Okay, so this is in 2026. I was about to say, is this an old video that just showed up? But no, January. Okay, 2026. It seems like fewer people are afraid to say it now. But there was a time when it was actually a pretty spicy take to say, fuck Duolingo, it's worthless. I go with the ice because my mom's physical therapist told her ice has a definite edge according to various studies, and I used to use heating pads a lot more, but I find ice works really well, so worth trying if you find that the heating pad isn't quite getting what you're looking for.
Now, I'm not a linguist. I'm not within this world. I don't give a shit. It sucks. You guys, it's not helping. All right? We're going to talk about Duolingo in a complete other video. I don't want to go on my rant now.
Okay, I mean, I'm liking this guy, and I think so far what he's saying makes a lot of sense, but I want to know what he means by this, like, go slow to... And, I mean, part of that comes into a question of, like, is he trying to sell something? I mean, so far, you know, liking this. I think that he's making good points.
I just want you guys to understand the...
How are you, what do you think of the audio on the video, Riveroon? Like, is it too loud, too quiet? It's hard for me to judge how it comes over on your end.
Core principle that's allowed me to study all these languages and continue to improve and communicate in all the languages that I speak, including in conversations where I don't really have any true understanding of the subject matter. First things first.
Interesting.
If you're learning Russian, you're going to have channels that are slow Russian. If you got German.
Yeah, very true. There are lots and lots of them. Oh, yeah, easy German.
You got slow German. If you Swedish, you got Nusen, slow Swedish. Like all of these languages, a majority of them, virtually every popular language has some YouTube channel or some content out there.
Yeah, I mean, very true. And actually, there are lots of good channel recommendations in here. I mean, I see Easy Languages. Yeah, Easy Languages is like an archipelago of easy comprehensible input with like bilingual subs, everything. I mean, I think their stuff is great. And yeah, because it's that beginner, like the beginner intermediate level is just by definition the place where you need the most support in order to get comprehensible input. in order for it to be comprehensible in a way that is actually useful to you as somebody trying to get somewhere in the language. And there's tons of stuff for a lot of the more common languages. Like the more niche your language learning ambitions are, the harder it is. Like if you're looking for, actually, there's like a Burmese podcast for learners. So I was gonna say, like, it might be harder with Burmese, but I mean, I specifically know that there is one for Burmese.
Where they do things slowly. So you want to get and find materials where native speakers or high-level speakers are at least having a conversation and they're talking like this. Because, right, all that enunciation and all that stuff we don't do in normal everyday speaking.
Yeah.
I don't even talk like this. Obviously, I'm speaking into the camera in order for you guys to understand, for you guys to get the idea. It's not how I would speak when I'm talking to my friends.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are levels. You have to get, I mean, one thing that is really important is getting your hearing accustomed to the rhythm of the language, to understanding, because you've seen it written out maybe, and being able to relate that to what you hear and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, sort of more easily digestible, listening material, especially with the bilingual subs, is very handy for that sort of thing.
And so what happens when you find this type of material is that it gives you the opportunity to hear every word, to understand everything, and not have to think. Because, as I've talked about in many other videos, you are trying to suppress your mother tongue. The whole goal here is for you to suppress your mother tongue from having the complete and total control over your operating system that it has right now.
I mean, that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, but I actually kind of see where he's going with that, because the idea is you want to be able to engage in the language without it being mediated through languages you already know. So, yeah, suppressing it so the easier you make it to interact with the language without it being mediated through your native language, the better off you're going to be, especially if you can find ways to do that early on.
If you can't do that, it's always going to bleed into the language. You're going to try and think through that mother tongue. You don't want to do that. Your operating system is English. Well, today, it's French. Period. All right? You see the apple, it is now pomme. That's it. Period. Once you've found these channels and you've made it a habit to listen or watch or engage with 20, 30 minutes, repetition is now key. In our course, we have a minimum of 3 days that you need to be engaging with the same content. That doesn't mean that's the...
Okay, so he does have a course that he's selling here. But I mean, like, the overall thinking is quite good.
The only thing you do that day. What it means is your slow Russian podcast, those 15 to 20 minutes, you listen to that for 3 days at a minimum. There's this book, Make It Stick, by...
I mean, this is another reason why having interesting content is important. Because if you can keep going back to it, if it's something that you enjoy enough that you can keep going back to it, you will get more out of it because you will hear more.
By Peter Brown. And the whole idea there is that if learning strategies are fast, if they feel fast and easy, they are not the ones that stick. Usually you have some form of slow, effortful, maybe even frustrating. It's deeper. Like this sort of long lasting push and engagement with the content will leave you with better retention.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's right. Like, and you can combine those things. You can have superficial and deep engagement. You can do extensive reading, which is you read a lot of material, but you don't go for deep meaning, and intensive reading on the same stuff at different times. Hey, Atta, how you doing?
That is the gold. It's so gold. So you have to incorporate this. And this goes just to graded readers as well. With a graded reader, what they've done is you could take the Count of Monte Cristo, all right? And they're taking the Count of Monte Cristo, which is in some form of not truly archaic, but...
Oh, I actually... this is an interesting choice, because I just read and listened to the audiobook of I should say audio books, because it's multiple volumes. It's quite long. Of Le Comte de Monte Cristo, which is very good, incidentally. It's well worth reading. It's a long-term commitment, but it does actually have a nice payout.
Let's say old French, and they'll tone it down.
I wouldn't say it's even all that old French. It's very formal French. That is one thing. It is very much the French of the early 19th century Paris bourgeoisie. And so if you talk like this on the street in Paris now, people will look at you like you were talking like you were talking like you are a character in a Jane Austen novel or something like that. It is that sort of thing. But I mean, it's quite good. So I mean, definitely more something for, like, you wouldn't want to read something like this as a beginner, certainly.
Have to incorporate this, and this goes just to graded readers as well. With a graded reader, what they've done, and you could take the Count of Monte Cristo, all right, and they're taking the Count of Monte Cristo, which is in some form of not truly archaic, but let's say old French, and they'll tone it down. And so they'll make it more simplistic. They'll use things in a way that's almost like reading, like you were watching something slowly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is good stuff too.
Students come and they want to rush through all of the materials. They want to rush through the lessons, whatever they're using, Pimsleur, Osimil, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is like, there's this whole culture of like, you have to be doing a whole lot of stuff fast, and if you're not getting the results quickly, then clearly the whole thing is a just failed endeavor. And it's like, no, that's not how any of this works. It actually sucks. Don't do that.
Doesn't matter. They just want to rush through it. All right? And rushing through it is not going to leave it firmly implanted in your brain, and that's one of the reasons why so many students fail at their language learning, or why it's...
Yeah, you can't speed run this sort of thing. There are things you can do that will get you, that will allow you to achieve results faster than other things. But, I mean, there is a natural process going on. You're still working with a brain that has certain processing requirements.
It's extended for such a long period of time, and they don't have anything to show for it. One thing that'll help, something that we talk about in our artificial immersion course, of course, we have the standard course, which is just for people who want to go through materials themselves, and the intense, which is a 45-day intense language course for those people who want a solid tutor that is directed towards your goals and your things and everything else. Now, one of the things that's stressed within our course is that you do not need to chase quick progress. Quick progress is going to come. It's going to come, but usually it'll come in a flash where you'll wake up and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I can actually understand all this. Oh my God, I can't believe I actually went to this restaurant and stayed in my target language the entire time, all right? And so you're going to have these moments there. They're like flashes where you've jumped up. But until then, you may not see anything other than knowing, I think it's working. And then boom, that's where you know that...
Yeah, I mean, it is often a surprise. You just hear some stuff and then it's like, holy shit, I actually understood that. I just had that happen the other night while I was watching Al Mayadeen. I just tuned in and there was an interview with various people, like some analysts. One was in Washington, one was in Tehran, about the war, and the whole first question, I got it immediately. Just as I was tuning in, I came in halfway through the question. It's like, I understood every single bit, and it's like, holy shit. Wow, actually, something is working.
all that learning that you've done has been solidified. One important thing to note is that when you are trying to engage with this type of material, you need to make sure that these things are not long. You do not necessarily want an hour-long video. The reason is because we want to see these words a whole bunch, which is why people make giant vocab gains when they read. All right, you see this word here, you see it again, you're exposed to a ton of words, you're exposed to how they're spelled, how they're pronounced, right? Generally speaking, if you have a good understanding of...
Okay, so... Interesting. See, I mean, he does not actually define what he means by fluency, but what I appreciate here is that he also... And that makes me, hey, Language Mania, how you doing? And what also makes me say, you know, that this seems legit is precisely that he's pushing back on the idea of somehow you can get all these amazing, like, rapid results and shit. Okay. So, I am going to switch over now. And actually, I am going to look at an example of some good slow Japanese content, actually. There is a channel that showed up in my recommendations, and I checked it out because the topic of her podcast just sounded interesting. And for your sort of intermediate kind of Japanese learners, especially, I mean, I think even beginners could get a little something out of it, but there'd be a lot that you would have trouble with, I think. It's definitely worth checking out. And the topic is Nihongo ga jouzu na gaikokujin no tokuchou. Why some foreigners speak Japanese so well. Top 10 list. So I'm kind of curious what she has to say on this.
今日も一日お疲れ様。
This is Otsukare Japanese. Gonna drop the link in chat. And here we go. In pajamas, because the whole idea is that this is like sort of a bedtime themed podcast.
お疲れジャパニーズのゆりこです。このチャンネルでは日本語を勉強している皆さんと一緒に夜寝る前に日本語と日本文化をゆっくり楽しく学んでいきます。
Yeah, like she's speaking in a natural rhythm, but definitely at a much slower speed than you would do. I mean, if you listen to like Yuru Gengo Radio, for example, you'll hear the natural speed at which Japanese is spoken between native speakers. Nihongo no Mori. I think I remember that channel. I think I actually might have reviewed stuff from there at some point.
今日のテーマはこちら、日本語が上手な外国人の特徴トップ10。日本に住んでいるとびっくりするくらい日本語が上手な外国人の方に出会うことがあります。それはもちろんその人が日本に住んでいる場合もあるんだけど、
Okay, so some of them live in Japan, but...
日本にはね、ただ
And notice one of the things that I appreciate here from like a teaching standpoint is anything that seems like it might be a complicated structure or term. I mean, maybe it is a book as well, but I feel like there's also a channel called Nihongo no Mori. 旅行でしかしたことがない. So that is a more complicated structure. So up top, she provides it with the furigana for people who are having trouble with the kanji, and explains like has only visited as a traveler. And you've got these Japanese subtitles as well, so, and they're direct subtitles, so you can see exactly how she's talking. So she says, so it's not the way you would write this, which would be slightly different. Instead, you have very much the oral way of speaking.
旅行でしか来たことがないっていう人の中にもすごくね、日本語が上手な人がいます。もちろんレベルの差はあるんだけど、
So, of course, there are differences in
中に
levels.
は日本人とほとんど変わらないくらい自然に話す人もいたりとか、あとはほとんどのね、会話を日本語ですることができる人とか、本当にね、日本語を勉強している方たちの中には、日本人の私もね、って驚くぐらいね。
I mean, and one of the things that is quite useful about this as well, because these are, it's not subtitling. A lot of the time cleans up the way people talk and removes extra things. Like in Japanese, for example, often when you're introducing a topic, there's this ne that will be used. It doesn't translate really. It's a way of saying, here, this is, I'm introducing the beginning of this sentence, and I want to give you a chance to acknowledge that you understand that this is what it's about. So you say, like, 日本ではね. In writing, you would often just say 日本では. And then, like, the style of it, you get used to this. You see the way that it's structured and understand it. And that is very useful because the way you structure these thoughts in Japanese is very different to what you're used to from your Indo-European languages.
すごく日本語が上手な方もいます。今日はそんな方たちにね、いくつか共通している特徴があるんじゃないかなと思って、その特徴を日本人の視点からお話ししていきたいと思います。
Okay, and there are they're cute cat graphics.
それではまずはじめに第10位、なぜかエンジニアが多い。
Okay, that's wild. Apparently, she says a lot of the people that she encounters who are foreigners who have a surprisingly good Japanese are engineers. And I remember when I was doing some teaching a long time ago, all the teachers dreaded having engineers to teach. Dreaded it because the engineers often were the ones that had the most trouble, with the sort of approach that was being used.
.これは完全に個人的な印象なんですが、日本語がとても上手な外国人の方を見ると、なぜかエンジニアやプログラ
See, like, this kind of gloss is really important because there are things that we say in English, like for some reason, or I don't know why, or something like that. And Japanese, because of the particles and the way the particles are used, can say these things much more efficiently. So, nazeka, you add ka to a question word like this, and it is like the prefix some that we attach to question words in English, like somehow, someone, somewhere, somebody. But we don't have some why. Japanese has some why. Nazeka. Naze, why. Nazeka, some why, for some reason.
プログラマーの方が多い気がします。理由の一つは、多分エンジニアの人たちはもともと パソコンにね、興味を持つ過程で、日本のアニメとか、日本のゲームにおそらく影響をね。
Okay, so she thinks that the reason it's so often programmers and engineers that she finds speak Japanese so well is that they're watching a lot, they get into computers and then they find Japanese games and anime and stuff. That makes sense.
受けてきたんじゃないかなって思うんですね。なので、日本文化とか日本とか日本語へのモチベーションが高いっていうのもあるかもしれません。そしてもう一つの理由は、エンジニアの人たちっていうのはおそらくパターンを見つけたり構造を理解することが得意なんじゃないかなって思います。
A strand type language? Hey, Broadfast. What is a strand type language?
例えば日本語には助詞とか敬語、あとはね漢字とか、あとは文の順番とか。
Like she even puts in the subtitles the atoane, which is Death Stranding reference. Okay, I do not know this lore. Atoane is something that you use in Japanese when you're speaking. You're making a list of something and you're trying to remember the other things on there. So you say joshi toka, so the particles, and keigo, and what else? And in Japanese you would say like atoane, to sort of buy time as your brain is buffering to get to the point of adding the other things that belong on the list. And so having that also written out is really useful. Yeah, so it's 例えば日本語には助詞とか敬語、あとはね漢字とか、あとは文の順番とか、あとは like that is something I've never seen taught, but if you like speak Japanese, like and you listen to people who speak Japanese, you will hear this a lot. And one of the things that really can help you stay in target language is knowing those sorts of filler words that you use when you're trying to think of what you're going to say next, while at the same time making it clear that more is coming.
独特なルールがありますが、エンジニアの人たちはそういうルールをロジックとして理解するのが得意なのかもしれません。結構中にはね、漢字オタク。
Yes. Kanji nerds. I would be one of those.
の人もいてびっくりしますね。そして第9位。教科書だけで勉強していない。
So, like, one of the other characteristics she mentions here is not just using textbooks. And yeah, because like the Japanese they teach in textbooks is so utterly sanitized, it has a very little relationship to the way anyone talks.
日本語が上手な人は学校や教科書だけで勉強しているわけでは実はありません。多くの人がアニメや YouTube、日本のテレビなどからも日本語を学んでいます。
So a lot of them are using YouTube and anime and Japanese TV and stuff. And yeah, I mean, all of this definitely fits in. And I mean, this is good advice for Japanese, but it's good advice for everything. Because I mean, what it comes down to here is you're looking at natural materials on subjects that are actually of interest to you. And so so the motivation is there, and that can make up for difficulties in actually making sense out of what you're hearing. Oh, it is actually fairly similar to that. It's more complicated, though. I would have to say, like, pohe kieli, kirja kieli, I mean, that only having that distinction would actually simplify Japanese greatly. Because Japanese also has these levels, these honorific levels. Like, with Japanese, so much of the way you talk is relational. It indicates the relationship that exists with you, between you and the people you're talking with, and also the relationship that exists between you and the people you're talking about. So it is, I mean, there are definitely like certain similarities in the way the language works, including the timing of the language. The rhythm of Japanese and the rhythm of Finnish, very similar. They're both timed by mora. So they both have that sort of long, short, consonant, vowel sort of rhythm.
なぜかっていうと、教科書の日本語は、
Like, なぜかとっていうと was another one. Did she include that? See, I mean, personally, I would have included that because that is an important phrase. There are different ways of saying this in Japanese, but this is a very common colloquial way. なぜかっていうと literally means if you ask why. But the way we would use it we would translate this in English is it's like, it's because. And there are a lot of ways you can just say naze nara. That is a very simple way. You can also, like, if you want to be formal, you can say naze ka to oshaimasu to, or something like that. But it all is a way of introducing the reason for the thing you just said. So it's how you would say it's because, but it is structured totally different because it's made as a conditional statement. If you ask why, then it is because.
少しフォーマルで、実際の会話と少し違うことが多いからです。リアルな会話を聞くことで、自然な日本語が身についていっているかもしれません。そして第8位、日常系アニメを見ている。
Okay. So this is number 8 on her list. Slice of life, 日常系 anime. So anime, I've never actually watched these myself, but it's like stuff that deals with, I guess, daily life sort of things.
特に発音やイントネーションがとても自然な人は、バトル系のアニメよりも日常系アニメを見ていることが多いです。
Oh yeah, that makes absolute sense, because if you're watching like your battle, your like warrior anime action stuff, then you're learning a lot of phrases that will get you into, at the very least, very embarrassing situations if you use them in everyday speech. Because I mean, especially if you really actually like old, like historical period stuff, samurai ke stuff like that, Edo Jidai ke, would be the least of it, because then at the very least you sound like a character from an old novel. But if you're learning it and it's in modern Japanese, and that you start to get the idea that this is how people you're going to be saying, Kisama, koroshite aru, omae wa mou shindeiru, and shit like that. And yes, in those situations you might say kisama or omae, but if you start using those terms with like random people, especially if your Japanese sounds good enough that you should know better, or at least know what the significance of what you're saying is, then you could get into some difficulties, because that'll piss people off.
例えば、からかい上手の高木さんとか、バトルものであってもちょっとね、ハンターハンターみたいな、日常が多くね描かれているような作品とかであれば、友達同士の会話とか家族の会話とか。
Yeah, I mean, so stuff that actually realistically depicts some how people actually talk to each other in modern life, which makes sense. Yeah, play, pause, and resume. Yeah, resume's very useful though, because I mean it encompasses so much. It just means to start over, and then it just references in whatever was just being done.
リアルに近い日本語がたくさん出てきます。一方でね、例えば私大好きなんだけど、進撃の巨人、アタックオンタイタンとか、日本語を勉強するのはちょっと難しいかもしれない。この世界は残酷だからとかって多分日常の会話でさ使わないから。
Yeah, she says, phrases like "it's because this world is cruel" are not necessarily things that you will say in everyday conversation. Well, it depends, I guess, on who you're talking with and what you're talking about. I don't know. In some of the conversations I get into, この世界は残酷だから、I can see myself using that because, like, I mean, look at all this shit.
もしね、皆さんが使ったらちょっとみんなってびっくりしちゃうかもしれないので、そう日本語を勉強するっていう意味だと、もうちょっとほのぼのした日常のアニメが。
Yeah, and once again, she uses the top left to put in phrases that people might not be familiar with, like ほのぼのした warm, peaceful, gentle. Yeah, because you want to be able. That's the thing. If you really want to master a language, you have to have range. You got to be able to like have a nice, cozy conversation over a cup of tea and tell people to fuck off. And you've got to be, you got to be able to sort of judge the occasion and stuff like that. And that is one thing that textbooks are often really bad at, because they won't really help you learn to judge the occasion.
いいかもしれませんね。はい。そして第7位は恋愛リアリティショーを見ている。
Okay, so another characteristic she finds amongst people whose Japanese is shockingly good is they watch dating reality shows. I mean, I guess because that makes them gluttons for punishment?
です。
God, I mean, that you couldn't pay me to watch dating reality shows for any length of time because, no.
これは少し意外かもしれませんし、私自身結構意外だったんですけど、ただアメリカではなく、ドイツなんだけど、ドイツのフォロワーさんでテラスハウスを見て日本語を勉強したっていう方がすごく多くて。
Oh, that's on Netflix, isn't
it? すごくね、日本語も上手だったので、そう恋愛リアリティショーを見ると自然なね日本語を学べるんだなっていうのは、私自身もびっくりしたことでしたね。確かにね、本当に。
I mean, well, what she's talking about fundamentally is things that will expose people to the way people just normally engage with each other in various situations. So you can
こういう番組だと日本人が実際に話している自然な会話っていうのがそのまま出てくるので、恋愛とか友情とか気まずい空気とか。
I find it fascinating how so many of in Japanese, so many concepts actually end up getting assimilated to taste. So, like, the word for the word for awkward is kimazui, which literally means it tastes bad to your, to your spirit. It tastes bad to your soul, to your mind. Kimazui. And if something is going well, you say, umai. If you say somebody's good at something, it's like, umai. Umaku itteru. So again, in the case of things going well, we're also saying it's tasty. Travel vlogs, yes, I agree with you, Language Mania. Those are also really good. Especially because a lot of those if they show people doing like travel things like ordering food and getting the replies they would actually get, then then you will actually, that will be very useful for learning how everyday situations are navigated. I agree totally. Those are very good.
日本人のね、微妙なコミュニケーション。
Like, I mean, one that I use for Finnish, there's this guy who who tries to find the best of some genre of restaurant or bar or something like that in different Finnish cities, or looks for like the shittiest Finnish city or something, which turned out to be some sort of like dormitory town outside of Helsinki. I forget this guy's name. It's in my subscriptions. I haven't watched him in a bit. But yeah, I mean, that stuff is really good.
っていうのもよくわかるのでおすすめかもしれません。そして第6位がリスニング能力が高い。日本語が上手な外国人の方はほとんどの場合リスニング能力が
There's another example, because people learn hotondo in textbooks as almost. And that's really not quite, I mean, you can use it sometimes like that. A lot of the times, almost, the concept is addressed with verb forms more than anything. But it also, like, hotondo can also be used to just mean almost all of something. So, hotondo no bai means in almost all situations.
とても高いです。つまり相手の話していることをきちんと理解できる。だからこそ自然なタイミングで会話を続けることができます。
Yeah, okay, so listening ability is really good. That's true. And listening is challenging with Japanese because it is a high-speed language. You have to get used to the rhythm of it. You have to get used to the order stuff's coming in. And all that affects your timing. Like, and understanding the gaps that in Japanese are always left for people to sort of come in and confirm that they know what's going on. And understand the significance of them, which a lot of people, especially early level learners, don't.
実は言語を話す力よりも聞く力の方が大切と言われることも多いです。
Yeah, she says, like, listening is often said to be more important than talking. And yes, because if you're good at phonetics, you can learn to say things. You can learn to say all kinds of things. But you can't really interact in the language unless you can understand what people say back to you.
これは個人的なエピソードになるんだけど、確かに私もアメリカに行った時に初めの1週間か2週間は、現地のアメリカ人の人と会話ができなかったんだけど、耳が慣れてきて相手が何を言っているかが分かるようになった時に自分自身も会話ができるようになったのを覚えているのね。なのでもし皆さんの中で例えば教科書とか学校で日本語を勉強している人に関しては多分それは皆さんの勉強が足りないというよりかは
Okay, so it's about time for me to take a bio break, and I just wanted to say I am raising funds for the crowdfunded translation project. My current project, you can read the completed translations at the link I'm about to drop in chat. And if you want to make donations, they are welcomed at this other link that I'm also about to drop in chat. I'm trying to raise about $300 to cover some stuff that I need to take care of urgently. And all support is very much appreciated. Also, a thing I'm going to be offering to paid tier patrons sometime in the near future, I haven't decided which tier it's going to be, is audio recordings of the translations that I finish. So you can, you can actually just listen to them. I will be doing the readings. I'm actually, I've been told I'm a very good reader, in fact. And so that will become available. Hello, Pelicanada. How you doing? I'm about to take a break, but so that is something that will be coming soon in the next couple of weeks. Be back in just a few minutes. Quick bio break. Hi, and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I am Elise, translator, editor, and writer with 20 working languages, and this is where we talk about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff, and we play games. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4.
El hospital
還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は Okay, we've leveled up and it is time to pick another language. Morfar är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back. Greek. We're doing Greek when we get back. Ben neredeyse her gün okula giderim. Fun fact. Turkish. Hello, Shakespeare. How you doing? Fun fact, in Spanish, the word for bishop in chess is alfil. And that actually comes from Arabic. Fil. The same word fil as this. Meaning elephant, because the bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is squab, and that also means elephant. Okay. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Ça, c'est ça, ça, che c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco. Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyperpolyglotting avec Élise. Moi, c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça, c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux. Surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues. 10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Nej. Nej. Man. Igen. Jo. 5. ducks are drinking wine. Takvaz. Takvaz, okay, takvaz is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon. Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, ecco, la gente è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo. Io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io. I buy a computer or what? And here's another example. I like to point these out. For this word for or, but sounds vaguely like Hogun and the Hok in Hogun in Korean or Waku in Japanese, and that proves it is the exact same kind of character.
Okay, let me see.
Un chasseur, c'est son chassé. Ses chassés sont son chien de chasse.
Der dicke Dach.
Okay, der dicke Dachdecker deckt dir dein Dach, drum dank dem dicken Dachdecker, dass der dicke Dachdecker dir dein Dach deckt. Hola y bienvenidos al directo de Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. Yo soy Elisa, traductora, escritora y editora y comunicadora social con más de 20 idiomas de trabajo. Y aquí vamos a estar jugando videojuegos, sobre todo GeoGuessr, y hablando de idioma, la mejor forma de aprenderlo y caleta más. Zwei Zwetschgenzweigen zwitscherten zwei tschechische Schwalben. Tres tristes tigres tragaban trigo en un trigal en tres tristes trastos. Oh, I see. This says Diche Ishai Fui, which means do you want food? But yeah, are you hungry? That kind of thing. How are the boys? Cocine tapón. Pozo milao. Pote. When is it? Proteine. Protopulo. In the designated chicken eating area, obviously. Okay, still 3 times I have to defeat him. And I don't have a whole lot of health left. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and I'm back. So, I'm going to drop the link to this video in chat. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but this channel, if you're looking to have some Japanese input and you want something that's at a natural rhythm, but not necessarily the very fast pace that naturally spoken Japanese amongst native speakers tends to have, it's definitely a good channel to be following. Okay. Let's see. What else have we got? We're going to just have a look in on constant material donor of the stream, Evil Dia. Is traditional language study completely worthless? And let's see what he does with this.
What's up, grinders?
Ooh, that was loud.
Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about a fundamental misunderstanding I've seen happening a lot within the comments section. So I see a lot of comments come to my channel because obviously I am trialing out the ALG automatic language growth method, where people are like, hey, Evil Dia, I studied Spanish for 3-4 years at school, okay? Passed all the tests. I didn't understand the language. I was unable to produce the language.
I mean, very common thing.
It was a complete mystery to me, and then I did 400 or 500 hours of whatever immersion, and now I can watch native level content. Now I'm able to produce the language without any problems, so clearly I should have just done immersion from the get-go.
I mean, it depends on what you mean by immersion, but yes, actually, an input-based method would actually have gotten you those results from the start. The reason that you did not get those results with the sort of traditional methods is precisely because really what they make you good at is being able to talk about how the language works and not so much actually engage with life in the language. So yeah, exactly.
All that time at school was a complete waste of my time.
I mean, I don't know if I would go so far as to say complete, but yeah, actually, you could have just done this. You could have just done input-based methods from the start, and you definitely would have been better off in the first place.
When I think this is a fundamental misunderstanding of what's been going on behind the scenes in your lazy ass brain, or your...
I mean, it's actually more or less an accurate description of the state of the scientific study on the subject, but okay.
Your lame ass brain, as I've put up here, okay? So, I want to explain what's happened.
Okay, let's hear him try to explain what's happened.
Okay, so to do this, we're going to need a sentence. Now, the sentence I'm going to use is just a random Esperanto sentence. Mi manjas pomojn. Now, we're going to pretend
I eat apples.
you are a student, brand new to learning the language. You don't know anything about this language, okay? So we're just going to learn this one language and the structure of it and how it works, okay? So the first time you learn the sentence, you learn each individual component, okay? Now, this is if we're talking about that scenario of you learnt at school, unable to use the language, do lots of immersion, suddenly now you've made massive progress. Progress that was absolutely batshit insane compared to before. And why you should not be just turning around and telling everyone that immersion is the solution.
I mean, again...
unless they have the same background as you.
Except... okay, so what's he gonna do with this? Because the thing is, if all you're getting is mi manjas pomojn with, you know, on a blank slate... yeah, see, he's using the term... first of all, people use the term immersion to mean so many different things, and it's actually become a less useful term as a result of that. Because what they're actually saying, they may call it immersion, but what they're talking about is input-based methods. And good input-based methods will not just have this phrase mi manjas pomojn. They will have the person who's teaching the sentence standing there, pick up an apple, eat one apple. Mi manjas pomo. Yes, Elmo always looks like he's giving him side-eye lately, and I can understand it. So, mi manjas pomo, and there's the one apple. See, I've never studied Esperanto. I've never seen this sentence before. But Esperanto is, like, designed so that you can get into it very quickly if you have any grounding in European languages, which I do. So, yeah. So, mi manjas pomoin. So, not just one, but multiple. And so you're eating multiple of them. You say, mi manjas pomo, mi manjas pomoin. Whatever. So the person watching this who doesn't know the language is making the connection. Mi manjas, so you see the eating. Pomoin, pomoin. Lots of them. And you say, and gradually your brain works out that how to associate this phrase with what you're seeing. And that is what is actually allowing you to develop this structural understanding of the language. So, I mean, if all you're getting is this phrase on a blank slate, you're not really getting a whole lot at all. That's just bloody useless.
So, you've learned that the word me means I, okay? So, this is you wearing glasses. You're a nerd, you like languages, so you wear glasses, okay? You've learned...
Is that still a thing?
Learned that munge, so the first part here, this means to eat. So I guess we need a little picture. This is you're a sea monster, okay? I don't know why, but you are. And then you've learned us just means present tense, okay? So it's the current present tense. You've learned pomo means apple, so I guess we need an apple. And you've learned...
That's not an apple. Okay, maybe a potato or I guess possibly a peach? A really big cherry? Hello, welcome back, Ata. Yeah, he wrote Esperanto on an ass. It's an ass brain. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're actually doing an input-based method that is well structured and well thought out, you're getting this stuff without actually having... This is Evil Dia trying to clear up what he thinks is a misconception about the relationship between empirically invalidated traditional skill-based methods of language learning and empirically validated input-based methods that he doesn't think very highly of because he does not actually seem to have gotten into enough of them to understand where the method comes in a lot of the time.
Boy is plural, so we need multiple apples, and N is the accusative, which means that this is the object of that sentence. Now, prior to starting your immersion, okay, you would be like this. You'd be like, okay, so it's me is for the pronoun I. Okay, cool. Now, I want to say eat. So what is the verb for that? It's manji.
Yeah. But the point is that you can actually, if it is presented to you the right way, you can get there without having those things.
But I need a present tense, so it's manjas. Me manjas. Now I'm trying to say apples. So what is apple? Apple is pomo, a plural out of Y, so it's pomoi.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this does not really get you very far. And the thing is that you could get just as far, I mean, you can, it's very easy. If you were doing this in a TPRS classroom, you would have pictures, and you would say, pomo, pomo, and then pomoi, and you've got a lot of apples. And then, mi manjas pomon, just one. Mi manjas pomoin. And you got all of them, and, and you really overact, and you're getting the concept there already. And then, if you want to sort of bring the past tense into it, then I mean, immersion means a lot of different things. A lot of the time when people say immersion, what they mean is like surrounding yourself, like going into a place where the target language is the primary language. And at the very beginning levels, that's actually not very useful. Like people who are really big advocates and researchers of input-based approaches also tend to advise against really early total immersion as getting the same sorts of results. Like, I mean, the thing is, he always sort of strawmans input-based approaches because he treats input as a method rather than as Esperanto. Yeah, he did do that. This is Esperanto. It's Esperanto written on an ass.
But it needs to be the object of the verb, so it's pomoin. Mi manjas pomoin. Boom, got the sentence. But that was not automated. That was not fluent. That was absolutely atrocious. That was you translating in your head. Why the hell can't you just say mi manjas pomoin? Why did you have to go through all those steps, okay? And why suddenly...
And the answer is that you learned how to talk about how the language works, but you did not acquire the language. These are fundamentally different processes. They can interact a bit. Like, you know, if you know that a word, if you remember from a traditional language class that a word means something, you have that for when you have input, and it kind of falls under what I call priming. That's not a term I've ever heard anyone else use, but other people do talk about the concept. But you don't necessarily need that, and if the input-based approach that, you know, you are using works really well, you can actually get to the same point with that sentence without it.
After 500 hours, do you have people reporting that the language just flows out, okay, when talking about someone who learnt at school, okay? This is why. Let me explain it to you.
I mean, but you get people who did not learn at school also have reporting that as well.
You learnt these words, and you've created this weak connection between them. Maybe you studied them at school, in a book, whatnot, an app, doesn't matter, but you've got a weak connection. You have a theoretical understanding that mi goes with manjas goes with pomoin, okay? You know this if you work through the rules.
Yeah, except, I mean, again, yes, true. And that does not hurt, actually, when you go to an input-based method, but it's not the only way to arrive at that, and...
But the connection in your brain is...
You see, what he seems to be trying to do is say, first do the traditional language study, and then do input. Like, input-based methods can't function on their own, but the trouble is he doesn't really know anything about input-based methods. There's only one that he always sort of refers to, which is ALG as practiced by Dreaming Spanish.
Super weak. And in fact, the longer you leave that connection weak, the more it starts to break up over time because your brain's smart. It's like you don't need this stuff. And if you don't practice it, it's going to fade away and then it's going to become worse and worse, okay? But let's say you're practicing at school. So you hit it once or twice, a week or whatever. You're like, yeah, there's that connection once or twice a week and then you don't need...
I mean, what is quite correct and unintentional on his part is that he's drawing the line between the words, but he's not drawing lines between the words and his interesting abstract art that's meant to represent the concepts. Because what a good input-based approach will do will be to link the words to the concepts directly.
It starts to break down again, okay? So you've got this constant process of, you use it just a tiny, such a small amount that you can maintain an understanding if you work through it, but not enough to be able to utilize it, hear it, or produce it, okay? So this is where immersion comes in and helps a massive amount. When you do immersion, the first time you hear this sentence or the components of this sentence, you create that little line again, okay? But immersion generally is not just 5 seconds of practice for that one sentence, which is what you would do in a school book, okay?
Yeah, okay, what's he going to say immersion is? Because again, I mean, there's a tendency to be very sloppy in the use of very specific terms here with Evil Dia, and that is one of the big problems with a lot of his content. Even when he's otherwise potentially even making a somewhat valid point.
It may be 30 minutes, an hour, 2, 5 hours, where maybe you're watching a series and they're talking about apples a lot. Maybe it's, you know, they're picking apples and they randomly mention Mi manjas pomoin or some variant of that construction over and over, okay? So you're suddenly now smashing...
Oh, well, I mean, or they don't even necessarily have to do it separate together. It can be separately. Because what's happening if you're doing, you know, input-based things correctly in useful ways is you're associating each of these words with the concept that they refer to, rather than associating them vaguely with, you know, native language words.
These connections between it with your brain. Now, the connections are not going to be enough at first that you're even going to be able to recognize that you're hearing this. They may say, Mi manjas pomoin, 10 times, and you're not even going to hear it. You might hear the me part because this is a pronoun and you practice that pronoun a ton at school. You might hear that part, but you're not going to hear this part right here, okay?
Well, I mean, maybe you hear that and you don't have any particular recall of it, but it's in a context where people are eating or talking about eating, or otherwise it is made clear that eating is going on.
Or this part right here. It's just, you just cannot hear it. But the more you hear it in context, okay, the more these connections start to build up. You're not even aware this is happening. This is your brain making those connections going, okay, and it's not necessarily happening right then in that very moment, but it is building those connections. And it may happen even while you're asleep, okay, but the connections are building up. Eventually those connections thicken up to the point...
I mean, it says everything that he's not drawing any lines at all between the words in the... It's like it doesn't occur to him that that's actually the goal and the effect of language acquisition.
Where, boom, you're able to hear the word manjas. Now, you might actually miss the word I, and you might miss the word here, but when you hear that sentence, you're like, did they mention something about eating? I think they did. Interesting, okay? So you keep immersing. Now, as you keep immersing...
No, I mean, he seems to be using them interchangeably, actually. I mean, my impression, the way he's talking about this is as if immersion and input-based methods were identical. Yeah, I mean, this is not entirely clear to me what he thinks is going on here. Because he's speaking of immersion very much in the abstract, which is part of the problem. Because it all very much depends on, like, the context in which this phrase might be coming up in, you know, in input. Like, do you see the person eating apples? Maybe they get it in the negative. It's like somebody's offered an apple and they refuse and they say, Minu manjas pomoin. I don't eat fucking apples. What do you, get the fuck out of my face with these apples? And you say, oh, okay, so Minu manjas pomoin. I don't eat apples. So mi manjas pomoin, I eat apples. You know, you're building up the relationship between what you hear and what you see, the words and the concepts, which is a different sort of thing.
What happens is these lines start to really thicken up for this sentence that you've heard, you know, so many times.
This makes the Wojak memes look like they have high production value.
Okay, they're really starting to thicken up now. And via this thickening up, and you notice I'm not making these lines perfect. There's a reason for that, okay?
I mean, sloppiness? Because
the word me in your brain is not just one sound. It might be me, 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 me. Like, there's thousands of different ways to say this sound depending on the accent. And you're hearing all these crossed over variations of it suddenly now, okay? And all those crossed over variations are linking. It's not just one specific sound, okay? Now, as these lines thicken up, you now hear mi manjas pomoin. But it takes a second for your brain to process that, and you're actually kind of hearing it in a shadow. It's after this.
Okay, I'm losing the thread here too. Because what do you mean hearing it in a shadow? Like, what context are we supposed to be imagining this? And all of this is very contextual. Yeah, I mean, total immersion, as in you actually go to a place where the language is spoken as the main language in everyday life, and maybe nobody actually speaks whatever your native language is. Really, that is going to be an extremely challenging thing, and not necessarily very helpful for language acquisition, precisely because you haven't got any kind of elementary conceptual connections between sounds and meanings. And you won't necessarily have a lot of help to make sense out of them.
Sentence has been said. So you'll hear the sentence, and then a second later you'll be like, oh, they said me man just pomoi. But the sentence has moved on, okay? And you're like, damn it, why didn't I not hear? Why is it almost like delayed? Because you still have not thickened it up enough.
Like, I mean, he does not seem to know how a lot of these things work, mostly. It's interesting because we're getting an idea of how he thinks that this stuff operates, except it's also, like, his drawing is just so amazingly bad. I mean, I'm not the greatest graphic artist around, but I think I could do a better Apple. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm really not following this. And that isn't like a bit I'm doing. It's not like, we were watching David Pacman yesterday, who I think was mostly trying to avoid talking about the subject by pretending he didn't comprehend something that actually wasn't too hard to comprehend. I'm legit not certain where he's going with this, because he has not been very specific about what he even means by immersion.
Okay. Now, after you've done this, let's say 100 times or whatever, okay, these lines, they're thick, they're juicy, they've got some beef to them. So as soon as you hear me, your brain instantly goes to...
And so now there are lines with beef. So, no, I mean, you're lost because what he's saying doesn't actually make a huge amount of sense. He's making these lines do an awful lot of free labor here.
The understanding of self, the pronoun. And then here's manjas. It goes to all those times it's heard that, okay, that word. All the mental images that have happened, and that...
His blue line is a chonky boy. Yeah, it's a chonky immersion ass.
With that original word that you studied, and the same with apples, and then you instantly understand it in the moment. And the same thing kind of happens with speech, okay? You may practice me, manjas, pomoin, and it doesn't stick.
I mean, it doesn't stick because the thing about, I mean, you'll notice this, I notice this a lot when I'm doing graphic stuff and I'm trying to choose a font. And I have hundreds and hundreds of fonts on my computer, so I cycle through all of them if I'm really undecided about what kind of font I want for something. And at a certain point, somewhere after the 30th font I've gone through, whatever I wrote that I'm, like, trying to find a font for loses all meaning. All it becomes is, like, just an image. And I have to actually think about it for a second and go, oh, that's what that says. Because at a certain point, it's just, like, garbage. And that really gets in the way of choosing a font. And it's the same thing, you're just repeating this over and over again. You don't necessarily, that doesn't mean that you're actually getting any meaning out of it. Because what you need is a nice chonky line between the sounds and the concepts.
It's hard to say, but you say that once, you say that twice, you say that with some slight variation, you hear that many, many times.
You start to make people worry about you, especially because if they actually understand what you're saying, you seem quite obsessed with a subject that really does not warrant obsession.
You keep saying it over and over and over, and eventually you build up those connections in your brain to the point where it just, one day it just comes out being manjas pomoin. The full grammar, everything, without thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so it comes out like it can come out that way without actually having any connections to the concept. Like, he seems to think that the key is to just repeat I eat apples, I eat apples, I eat apples over and over again. If you don't already have a conceptual connection with any of that, you might as well be repeating a line from you know, Genji Monogatari without actually understanding the Japanese in it. Like, what's his point?
Okay, now, this is not some magic that just randomly started after you were studying at school. You started with a scaffolding.
Okay, so we got a scaffolding within the brain ass. I'm so glad that we're getting so many different metaphors.
Down deep under all this is the word me, is the word manjas, and is the word pomo, pomoin, you know, all these random grammatical variations of it, okay? So what you've done is you've scaffolded. But unfortunately
What do you mean by scaffolded, though? Like, okay, if you're going to use the metaphor, explain. I'm literally not sure. Because I thought that it was the chonky line that we were drawing by obsessively repeating I eat apples all the time. And now there's scaffolding. Like, what is the scaffolding in this metaphor?
School fails to teach, at least when I was going through the school, is that this is not the end game. You can't just learn the words and then that's it. You need to practice them over and over, and you need to hear them over and over.
But, I mean, that's, again, what he's talking about there is more or less what you do in the school. The issue is not that it's not repetitive enough. The issue is that it does not develop deep links between, you know, words and structures and concepts, because it doesn't actually provide the sort of material and the sort of engagement with that material that develop those links. Which is why, accidentally, the one thing that he has done absolutely right here is that there are no lines of any thickness between the words and the concepts. But, I mean, in his case, I think it's because he assumes that the word is equivalent to the concept, which it isn't, actually. Like, the connection between the word you say or hear and the concept you're evoking is precisely what the challenge of language acquisition is all about.
So realistically, what you should be doing is learning the words, okay, and then absolutely smashing yourself with a lot of immersion based around those words. Which is why on my channel I'll talk about things like sentence mining from specific type of content that you enjoy.
I mean, actually that, did make sense. I still didn't know what the hell he meant by scaffolding, and he seems to have abandoned it. Which, I mean, you can end up getting a serious fine from the council if you just abandon scaffolding like that. I mean, it's blocking the footpath. But, like, if he can just randomly throw in metaphors that he never explains, then so can I. But, I mean, that's actually a valid strategy, and again, it's what I would call priming. So you know that you're about to hear certain words in a particular context, and so you, by whatever means, find out what words you would be expecting to hear. And by preparing, by knowing that there are at least these sorts of things that you may hear in this context, it makes it easier to make sense out of all the rest, including words that you've never heard before.
Okay, so if like this is your content right here, let's just say this is what you love, horror, you know, games. Sentence mine from that. Find words when you're watching a horror game that keep popping up over and over, or even pick words that, you know, maybe just watch one video. Pick as many words as you can from that, add them into maybe your Anki, or at least study them. Like, just study them, practice them. You don't even need Anki, okay? Just practice them in some fashion.
You definitely don't.
Or another. then keep watching the same type of content over and over. Make sure it's content that you enjoy, different types of videos, and then just try randomly shadow as you hear these things, and they become easier for you to shadow, because there'll be certain sentences that start to fall together easier. Just try to say them, okay? Because by doing that initial study, it's not enough by itself, but once you hear it hundreds, thousands of times.
Like, he's leaving out what makes the hearing at all useful, though, which is the context. Like, this is a very basic thing that is essential to understanding how any of this works. It's not enough to just keep on hearing a word that is kind of familiar, that you have a vague recollection of hearing once. If you want to link it to the concept so that you really know that word and have a rich understanding of of the many ways it's used, like with apple, for example, in English, we've got there's all sorts of stuff going on with apple. You can be the apple of someone's eye. Well, what does that mean? That's a really weird phrase when you think about it. And if you're coming from a language that does not have that weird-ass phrase, you might not understand that it does not mean that you've just, it's not meant to evoke just having had fruit thrown in your face. Or, there's the apple in the context of, like, the Garden of Eden and something, and so all sorts of stuff that gets evoked with the concept of apple. And the way you get that is through the context, the visual, auditory, emotional context in which these words and phrases are being made available to you, being presented to you. And he doesn't engage with that at all. It's just words, and that's useless. Like, he's missing the most important part of all of this.
Via the content.
And that is why his account and his weird, attempt at, graphically illustrating it makes so little sense.
It hooks into what you've learned. You've created a basic scaffolding, okay? So
what's the scaffolding, though? Again,
I just wanted to talk about that and also kind of clear up on that misconception about, specifically around people who are like, don't do traditional study. It's a waste of time. Just do immersion.
Well, again, he hasn't cleared up anything because he doesn't actually explain what he means by immersion. He doesn't seem to know that there are methods in the world that are input-based other than ALG. The immersion itself can mean a whole lot of different things. And he doesn't seem to understand what the mental process we're going for is, because he's drawing the lines in the wrong fucking place.
No, the two go hand in hand, okay? Now, if you just focus on just traditional study, you will fail. If you just focus on immersion, eventually you'll get there. But
I mean, again, it depends on what kind of immersion you're doing, which is why that is not actually the word that people would use when talking about a specific method. Like, ALG is a method that could be called immersion. It's not what specialists in the field would say is immersion. That is a different concept altogether that has to do usually with being in a place where it is in constant use around you and you need it in order to do daily life tasks. But immersion, this clears up nothing because he doesn't really understand what any of these things mean.
It's going to take you for fucking ever. Do a bit of both. How you get those words into your brain, okay? Could be writing them, could be via an app, it could be
the one thing that he says that actually is sense, that does make sense methodologically, is the things that essentially amount to priming. However you get the word and concept of apple, that is going to make it easier. If you just look up the word for apple, if you're about to watch a video in, I don't know, Italian about how to make an apple pie. However you get that word, it's going to make it easier to work with the to work with the other input that you're getting as you're watching the person talk in Italian about making an apple pie. But I mean, beyond that, nothing that he says makes particularly much sense.
Technically, yes, immersion, although it's probably the slowest way to get those words into your brain. Just pick a bunch of ways to get those words into your brain. Now, eventually what will happen is you'll get enough words into your brain that you will not need to manually go study them anymore. You'll just start picking up all of them in context. But this part right here, this initial scaffolding, there seems to be a real misunderstanding about all those years of school study that you did and why that has been of great value, but you've never utilized it. Okay?
It hasn't really been of great value, though. And you could actually, I mean, when you actually look at it, a lot of what you got out of that, a lot of what is available that is of value to the actual acquisition process that you got out of that traditional study in 4 years is stuff that you could get much more easily just, through, contextually appropriate priming before engaging with input, potentially. It doesn't necessarily give you much of anything, because it did not create strong links between words and concepts, which is the one thing he accidentally gets right about this whole graphic, because he doesn't draw lines between them at all. Okay, let's see what else we can look at. We got like 20 minutes to go. Okay, here is, if you want to learn specifically Québécois, the French as it is spoken in Quebec.
Bienvenue sur...
This is a very good channel. This is apparently a collab between French School TV and Ma Prof de Français. Ma Prof de Français is a channel I've looked at on this stream previously and quite highly recommend for people who want to learn French specifically as it is used by most Canadian French speakers. I'm going to just drop the link to that chat. That is JavaScript void bracket 0. That's not particularly helpful. Ma Prof de Français. I'm going to link to the video itself as well. Just a moment. And the video. Here you go. And this is a dialogue on, like, calling a snowplow. A very useful thing to know how to do if you live in Quebec.
French School TV. Aujourd'hui, c'est la troisième vidéo que l'on réalise avec Geneviève de la prof de la chaîne Ma Prof en français. C'est Ma Prof en français ou Ma Prof de français?
Okay, so the guy on the left, which is what was it? Now, and I what is his French School TV? He is very much speaking metropolitan European French. His accent is very European. Hers is not. And you can really get a good idea of the difference between them just listening to the two of them talk to each other.
Ma Prof de français, pardon. Vous pouvez cliquer ici en haut à droite pour vous abonner. Je vous mets aussi le lien.
Yeah, the rhythm is totally different, you will notice.
Dans la description pour apprendre à convertir.
Yeah, exactly. We misunderstood years of our school studies, while at the same time he's not even able to draw an effective context diagram to map out his own idea. Yeah, I mean, not even to explain what the goal is, because the goal is not linking 3 words for a sentence that you may not actually ever utter in your lifetime. The whole idea is that each word in that sentence is linked to a concept that you can actually use.
C'est exactement comment on le fait. Si jamais vous avez l'intérêt juste de le faire, je vous recommande. Si vous avez
there's this sort of up and down tonality. L'intérêt is very much European French, and she hasn't talked as he's doing the intro still, and you will hear the difference.
Nécessité de le faire peut-être pour...
La nécessité de le faire peut-être. Like, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you will hear the difference in a sec.
Une possible immigration, que ce soit pour étudier, pour travailler, n'hésitez pas parce que c'est toujours mieux d'avoir une petite connaissance des expressions.
Petite connaissance.
Du vocabulaire avant de se rendre là-bas. Pour vous aider aujourd'hui, moi et...
I mean, and also I will say, I've never heard of this channel, but if what he does is listenable content in, like, relatively slow French, I mean, he seems to do very well. He speaks very, very clearly. We've got French subtitles here, handy. And very slowly... Easy to follow, I would say.
Ma chère Geneviève, et bon, on va vous jouer un petit dialogue qui est appelé un déneigeur. Ça tombe bien, en plus, c'est dans la...
Un déneigeur, snowplow.
Comme on est en novembre-décembre, c'est la bonne période pour parler de ça. Je vais le mettre un petit peu.
Okay, here we go. And so we've got actually the text of the dialogue here too. So, okay, perfect. Oh, so this is a collab where he is looking at one of her videos while she's looking at one of her videos with him. Okay, so that's what we got going on here.
Un peu plus grand. Qu'est-ce que tu préfères? Tu préfères que ce soit moi qui commence à parler?
Oh, okay, so so they're going to share... No, they're not looking at a video. They're sharing the dialogue. Okay, cool.
Ou toi?
Je pense que... Vas-y, fais le déneigeur.
C'est moi qui commence.
Le déneigeur. Yeah, I mean, a much more even intonation.
Mécontent.
Okay, so she's going to be the customer and he's going to be the snowplow dude.
On imagine que ça sonne au téléphone. Dring, dring. Déneigement côté. Bonjour.
Oui, bonjour. J'appelle parce que votre gars, il était supposé de venir ouvrir ma cour un matin, puis ben, il est pas venu.
Yeah, like, totally different rhythm. Totally different pronunciation of a lot of those vowels. Like, you notice, like, the sound disappears a lot in the Québécois.
Oh, je suis désolé. Avec la grosse bordée qu'on a eue cette nuit, on fournit pas. Mais on va regarder ça.
Oh, yeah. The video that says, like, these people need to be called out. I was going to look at that yesterday, and it turned out to be members-only content.
Est-ce que je pourrais avoir votre adresse, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, c'est le 1339 rue des Érables.
Merci. Bon, de ce que je vois, votre déneigeur assaigné à votre quartier est rendu sur la rue voisine. Ça ne devait plus être long.
Ben là, c'est parce que la gratte est passée dans la rue, puis moi, ben, je peux pas sortir mon char. Faut que j'aille travailler, moi, là.
Yeah. I mean, you can really hear the difference. And she does very interesting content, specifically about learning Québécois. Good channel, and great if you're trying to get used to the sound of it. Yeah, I mean, it's really good hearing the two of them talk, because you can really hear how different it is. Because he has a very Parisian accent, and she has a very Montréal accent.
Encore une fois, on est vraiment désolé pour la situation. Je vais essayer de le rejoindre pour lui dire de passer à votre adresse, au moins juste pour ôter le banc de neige de la charrue, que vous puissiez sortir. Ça vous va?
Oui, merci.
Merci à vous.
Oh, has he? Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and look then.
Bonjour là. Si tu veux, on peut commencer par cette expression. Bonjour là. Alors ça, c'est un truc que nous, les Français, on dirait pas du tout. En fait, on dirait bonjour là, c'est comme pour dire bonne journée au final.
Ouais, ben tu sais, comme on peut dire salut pour commencer une conversation, puis on peut dire
Ouais.
salut en s'en allant.
Oh, okay. So they're going to explicate the Quebecois phrases and stuff. But actually, I think I might switch over, like, because if that is, I've got that one in my playlist here. Is it called "These People Need to Be Called Out"? Is that the one?
What's up, grinders? Welcome
Yes,
back
it is. Okay, it is indeed available. Okay, let's see. What people need to be called out?
to the channel. So today we're going to react to this video right here. It's called Let's Talk About Pronouncing Names. Now, this was recommended to me in the Discord.
Oh, interesting. Woody Ling, a linguistics channel, and I actually just had him. I'd never heard of him. He showed up in my Rex just today. Neat.
And when I saw this video, I clicked on it. I saw it was 10 minutes long, and I was like, bro, you want me to watch a 10-minute long video about pronouncing names? This is going to be the most boring shit ever. And in fact, it is not. It is not boring. Not because of the content or because of what he's saying, but because I fundamentally disagree with him on one specific point, okay? So let's watch this video and you'll see what I mean, okay? So let's begin.
You might have seen videos where people talk about making people correctly pronounce their name. Maybe something like this.
You should say the proper way to say your name.
I don't say it before I make them say it right.
Now, I think these creators are coming from a good place of trying to show appreciation and respect, but they're doing that while misunderstanding some of the fundamental linguistics.
Okay, this...
Okay. But I don't think they're trying to show appreciation and express. I think they're trying to demand respect. I think the point is they're trying to insist on having their name not mispronounced because there's a whole thing of like people, like especially like white people saying, oh, so your name is Graciela. Okay, I'm going to call you Grace. And it's like, no, you're going to call me Graciela. That's not offering respect, it's actually requiring it, because it's kind of fucked up to just say I'm gonna change your name because I can't be bothered to work out how to even approximate the pronunciation of it.
This is where I disagree with him. He's correct, and everything he's about to say from literally this point on in the video at 17 seconds in is correct, okay? So what is my disagreement with him? And I hope he sees this video. My disagreement with him is over the fact that he believes that they are fundamentally coming from a good place.
Really? Okay. He believes that people who want their name to be pronounced correctly, you know, rather than just being completely sort of rewritten by white people who can't be bothered, you know, to pronounce people of color's names correctly, are not coming from a good place? Is that what he's saying?
They are not. They are being assholes, okay? You can even see it in the way that they're smirking and the way that they're like, oh.
Well, no, you can't, actually. Thank you for letting me know. This is going to be some bullshit. Because the reason they're smiling like that is because it is turning the tables. Because they've had people change their names for them, use names that are not their names, refuse to even bother to pronounce it correctly, you know, make absolutely no effort, and they're saying they're not putting up with that anymore. And I can totally understand that. It's not hard, and it isn't being an asshole.
I make them say it right. These people are being assholes.
No, they aren't.
To monolinguals. Because...
No, they're not. Because the thing is, lots of monolingual, you can be monolingual and still, I mean, they're not insisting on it being pronounced in a perfect native accent in whatever language the name originates from. They're asking for a decent approximation, and that is not too much to ask for. But they often do not get it.
clearly this is a person from a background who probably speaks multiple languages, at least 2 languages, okay? Their name is...
I mean, so what we're saying is a person from an immigrant background.
Pronounced in some specific way in their language, and then when they're speaking with English speakers, the English speaker is unable to say their name. Now...
Oh, well, it's not, like, unable. We're talking often about people who don't even try.
They are therefore at that point going, oh, well, you're saying my name wrong. This is how you say it. And the English speaker is struggling because they're unable to say it. Because
wow, I mean, it's amazing how he massively steelmans. He doesn't want to hear what they have to say. He does not. He's coming into this. This is discourse from like 3 years ago, mind you. So there has been time for him to actually understand what's going on here. Because what's going on here, very specifically, is that people are sick of having their names rewritten by white people who can't be bothered to pronounce it, even though they have no trouble pronouncing like Tchaikovsky or something like that. But then they won't even try when it's like an African name or a Japanese name or, you know, a Mapuche name or something like that. And it's like, no, this is not somebody who is struggling. I think if you wanted to show that the people who you're talking about are assholes, you would show some proof that they're saying that they would not accept somebody who, you know, gets it, can't get the accent perfect, but is at the very least getting the sounds more or less right, or something like that. That somebody who is actually making a genuine effort to get the pronunciation as correct as possible is getting rebuffed for that. But he's not, because that's not what's going on. That's not what this is even about. But he hasn't bothered to find out what it's about, because he was too busy drawing chonky lines on an ass brain.
they do not have the phonemes in their own language, in English, to say this person's name. And
well, let's find out what the name is, shall we? Let's find out what the fucking name is.
Now, this person knows this to be true. They know that because they would have encountered this many times before. If they know anything about language, and if you speak 2 languages, you got a better idea than most people, okay? You would know what...
Well, okay. If that's all true, I'm sure it will be borne out in the fucking video.
You're doing is literally impossible for the other person.
Literally impossible? No, it isn't literally impossible. We haven't actually, mind you, at this point, all we've heard is the phrase, I make them say it right. Like, we don't know what they mean by that. You know, we don't know if what she's saying there means that she insists on a perfect accent, you know, a perfect native accent for the word from somebody who is not a native speaker of the language that the name comes from. We don't know that. He's just assuming all of this, and that is assuming a whole hell of a lot, actually.
Yeah, there is caveats to this.
Yeah, I'll say. Yeah, let's hear your caveats.
Obviously, if your name is like Sophia, and they keep saying Sophie...
Which is exactly the kind of thing we're talking about.
Those names are perfectly pronounceable in English, and if they keep saying...
No shit! This is what the fucking... I mean, welcome to this conversation, Evil Dia. This is literally what this discourse was and is about.
It wrong, then the person who keeps saying it wrong either has an issue, and I'll talk about one of those issues in a moment because it's something that I suffer from. For example, I am someone who, I don't know if there's a term for it, but you've probably heard of the term...
A dick?
Face blindness. The people who...
well, prosopagnosia, but that's not...
Not recognize a face. I have the opposite. I can see a face, I'll recognize it, I'll remember that face forever, but I'm very, very forgetful of names.
Yeah, but there's a thing. There's being forgetful of names, and there's refusing to pronounce them correctly. There's refusing to even try to say them correctly. We're not talking about people forgetting names. And I mean, I have that problem. I'm bad with names unless I have, like, interacted with a person and heard their name in context a number of times. I have, like, people I meet at, like, I've met at parties are, like, a nightmare for me because, you know, a week later, you know, I'll have met, like, 15 people or something like that. It's been a while since I've been to a party, by the way, because of the fucking ongoing pandemic. But, you know, I will have met like 15 people, and they all remember me. And I kind of remember them, but I have no recollection of their names because I only heard them once in a context where I was being bombarded with new names. That's not what we're fucking talking about.
Even names of people who I've worked with and I've known for years, at some point randomly, the name will just escape me. It'll just be...
Yeah, this is not what we're talking about. Yeah, I have that too.
It'll be gone. And for some reason, I will think their name is actually another name, and there's been instances at work where I'll...
Yeah, which is, again, not the same thing. This is not at all what we're talking about.
In mind to remember a name, I usually associate it with some physical feature of the person. Like, that's how I do it. So I don't know if there's even a term for that. So it's just like another thing on top. Or they're just being an asshole, okay? But I'm going to say in 99% of cases, if you're the type of person whose name is not pronounceable in the language...
Yeah, well, let's hear what the name is. Hit fucking play. Let's go a little bit further. What is her name? I mean, okay, I want to know what video... I want to see if I can find this video. This is Wilfling? What was it? What the fuck was that name of that channel? Because now I want to go and see it. Because I want to know what these people's fucking names are. Woody Ling, that's what it was. Woody Ling. Because I don't like, I mean, he's saying that he's coming from, I mean, he doesn't seem to understand what she's talking about either. And, I mean, it sounded like his take was about to be cringe in a completely different way. But I want to know...
You might have seen videos where people talk about making people correctly pronounce their name. Maybe some...
Say it right.
Now, I think these creators are coming from a good place of trying to show appreciation and copy. Copy! Is their Korean data linguistics behind this stuff. Take a look at this video, which is someone trying to get what I think is their Korean data and doesn't pronounce, just actually...
I want to know, do we actually get to see...
Pronouncing a lot of like your...
sound, you're probably not really saying it that accurately.
They're able to pronounce like a lot of like European sounding names, but as soon as they see like some form of ethnic name, I feel like everything in their head just goes out the window.
So there's two parts to this I want to mention. First, what...
Yeah, I mean, okay. So we're already getting more than... I mean, Evil Dia has not bothered even looking at more than her saying that. Again, like, when she's talking about European-sounding names, she's talking about the fact that a lot of the people who will not even bother to try to pronounce her name will have no trouble with actually fairly complicated names, like Aloysius.
On TikTok in response to a similar video from...
Or Schwarzenegger, for example, yeah.
Creator.
If they can say Schwarzenegger, they can say Abiyaser.
That's a good point, except we're not pronouncing Schwarzenegger correctly.
Yes, but she's... okay. And the point is, they're not... yeah, but the point is, she's not asking for it to be pronounced in a perfect native accent. Nobody's asking for that. That would be wild, and why the hell are... like, why do you fucking have to be like this, really, Evil Dia? And, I mean, now I'm very unimpressed with Woody Ling as well. Because nobody's saying get it exactly right within the fucking native pronunciation. Nobody's expecting that. People just want to have it more or less reasonably approximated within the linguistic ability of the person they're hearing. Not having it just, you know, thick-ass... Ugh. This is so fucking frustrating.
English, okay, and you live in America, that's not on the monolinguals. That's not their fault that they can't pronounce it. They literally are unable to. So...
God, yeah, no, they are. Like, fuck off. And first of all, like, again... see, because he just said, oh, well, you live in America. Well, yeah, guess what? That is a country where, like, the territory that the United States is on in a lot of that territory, Spanish was spoken way longer than English ever was. And even before Spanish, like, indigenous languages were there much, much fucking longer. So maybe it's on the people who colonized the land. Evil Dia, who happens to be in Australia, maybe ought to be thinking about this as well, to make some effort to, you know, interact with the languages that have been there for thousands and thousands of years before their asses showed up.
Everything he says from this point on, he's going to go into the linguistics of it. And we'll watch probably about...
Yeah, and what he says about the linguistics of it would be great if this were about responding to people asking for perfect native pronunciations. But the Schwarzenegger example actually completely refutes that, because nobody's... they didn't say you pronounce Schwarzenegger correctly. Nobody said that. They said, you know, it's an approximation. It comes close. It isn't the same thing. It's not like... Yeah.
5% of the video is correct. But he's coming from the place that these people are misunderstanding.
They're not, but they're not...
They're not.
They're not what the fuck? How does he not understand? He's, like, managed to misunderstand Woody Ling's already not great point. And both of them have managed to get so many miles away from what the fucking issue is. Like, not Woody Ling. Evil Dia very briefly accidentally touched on it. Namely, the fact that, like, white people will just kind of change people's names for them rather than trying to even approximate. Which is, like, what this whole conversation is about. Jesus fucking Christ.
Allowing these types of people to basically be assholes to other people just because they feel like they're better.
No.
The stuff. Take a look at this video, which is someone trying to get what I think is their Korean dad to pronounce the words coffee and copy.
Okay, we're gonna watch this. I actually fucking...
Yeah, but again... Okay. But actually, I'm noticing the time. And it is time for me to start wrapping up. I think we may look at this more next week, though. Thank you for letting me know that that's now publicly available. Before we go, I just want to, first of all, thank everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I've been doing a little bit of a different format this weekend. And, at least when all these people make mistakes or have a bad take, they're still speaking with a more or less respectful tone of voice. They don't act like total douchebags like Evil Dia. Yes, indeed. And Evil Dia manages to get the wrong end of getting the wrong end. He's like manages to be several meta levels of wrong about this. And then he adds, like, as the sort of box, the packaging is him being an asshole about it. Now, but it's time for me to wrap up. And I just want to say, I am trying to raise like $300 for today, urgently, kind of, because I have some things that really can't postpone, and all support in that regard towards the crowdfunded translation project and towards my work, which you can find over here, and towards my just general sort of survival. You can find the completed translations there, but it's all very much appreciated. And donations are also welcomed here. All support very much appreciated, and I will see you next week, Friday, 4:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you then.